Hi there. Welcome to a very awkward episode of Algebra 1. Today we're going to do lesson 7, simplifying and comparing expressions with symbols of inclusion. I already did a video for this, but apparently it didn't upload, so now I'm doing it all over again. All right, if you're paying attention in your book, you'll be on lesson 7, page 31. And let's talk about a little bit of vocabulary first. We're going to be doing two things here, obviously. We're going to simplify expressions, and we're going to compare expressions with symbols of inclusion. Let's talk about what an expression is. I mean, it could be like facial expressions, but typically in math, expressions are just going to be a problem without an equal sign. So there's not two sides of the thing, and we're showing that they're equal. Well, all we're doing here is solving one side, like the expression could be 2 plus 1. Or the expression could have letters. It could be like 3x plus 2x. But there's no equal sign. Okay, that's the big difference here. So we're just going to have a little problem without an equal sign. There's an expression. Now, we're going to talk about symbols of inclusion. No order of operations today. Okay, great. So symbols of inclusion are going to include a variety of symbols that you're going to find in Mathland. This one here would be just using parentheses, or you could use brackets, which could be like outside of parentheses, like a bigger thing, or they could be when you're working with a matrix. So they're very specific instructions. You can have these things called braces. This would be like absolute value. You put a number in here and you find out how far away it is from 0. Or you could have double parentheses, big ones and small ones. Your calculator will oftentimes be able to present that. And another one here is the fraction bar. Something over something. That fraction bar says that these two things somehow fit together. Like there's an inclusion there where they're not part of something else. So again, we have parentheses, we've got brackets, braces, absolute value, double parentheses, fraction bar. They're going to use various combinations of those things, and we might want to know just which things that we ought to do first. Get my pen. Okay, so the best way to do this is just to start with an example. And the first example that they have in the book is 9 minus the absolute value of 4 minus 6. And the way we work with these types of problems is we look for a problem inside of another problem. And what we're going to do in general is we want to work from the inside out. Okay, that's kind of our key strategy today, is to learn how to work from the inside out. And we want to group little problems and solve them first before we put it all together for our final answer. Now the little problem is right here inside these symbols of inclusion, the absolute value. So what it's asking you to do is to first solve this problem right here, 4 minus 6. You do it by hand or you do it on your calculator, and it'll tell you 4 minus 6 is negative 2. In this case, the symbols of inclusion tell you what to do next. These are the absolute value symbols. Now you couldn't find this on your calculator. I've got one around here somewhere. Here it is. And your calculators do have an absolute value function. You can find it if you go to the math button here, and you go over. Yeah, over to number, the first category. And number 1 there says ABS, and that means absolute value. If you hit enter, this pops up on your screen. And you can type in a negative 2, and it tells you the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. Absolute value tells you how far away you are from the origin, or from 0. Another way to find it on some of your calculators is to use your alpha button. You go alpha F2, and there it is, number 1 again. And you hit enter, and it brings it up on your home screen. Now remember, there's a difference here between the negative sign and the minus sign. So you're going to want to go negative whatever. And you can see how that works. So it breaks it down into that little problem first. So the next part here is like, well, the absolute value of -2 is 2. And now we're down to this little problem here to finish it off. We don't write equals, it's just an expression. We get down to 7. Your calculator knows how to do all this. If you can find all the right buttons to push, it'll do that for you. So we can make this pretty complicated. We can put a whole bunch of different things in there. The book will do some of those kinds of things. So example 2 says maybe we want to simplify things first. But really, the first thing you want to figure out is, which thing do I do first? And following this rule of working from the inside out, I find the thing that's the most inside. Okay, brackets are usually something's inside of me. Inside of the brackets, you have parentheses and a subtraction problem. So we look inside the parentheses first. So here's our first little problem. We want to ignore everything else except for 9 minus 3. Okay? 9 minus 3 is 6. So I'm going to erase that. I'm going to replace it with what it's equal to. Okay? Now you might write it out again. But I'm going to go in here and say, there's my first issue. 9 minus 3 is 6. Well, now the next thing is, this is still parentheses inside of brackets. And now we're being asked to square 6. 6 times 6. Once we do that, we can get rid of those parentheses. So 6 times 6 is 36. I'm going to erase this now, or I could rewrite the whole thing, and now I've got this. So we're not going to do this yet because we have symbols of inclusion here that we have to do first. Here's our next mini problem to take care of, 36 minus 6. You might even want to like circle it and say, yeah, that's my next problem. So there we go. We do that math, and we get 30, and we leave it in brackets. So that's what our problem would be next. Now, do we do this first or do we do this first? Well, order of operations demands that we do multiplying before we do addition. So here's our next problem. 5 times 30. Okay? So a calculator would tell you, or you can do it in your head, you get 150. And we're only left with one thing to do here, and that would be addition. 153. So you have to figure out which thing you need to do first. And you only get the right answer if you do it in the right order. Look for little problems inside of bigger problems and solve them one piece at a time. Work from the inside out. Let me give you one more example with a fraction bar in there as well as some other stuff. This is example 3 in your book. It has big brackets, 5 times, parentheses, 4 plus 2 n parentheses squared. And they close the brackets, and they give you one more problem over there. Now you have choices here because, maybe we'll do it this way. I'll put a circle around this as being a little problem. Put a bigger circle around that, that's a problem right there. Here's a grouping. Then the squaring is a grouping. And then the multiplication inside of the brackets is a grouping. But if we want to work from the inside out, we're either going to do this or we're going to do this first. So if I do this first, I'm doing inside the parentheses. 4 plus 2 is 6. So we erase that, we can put a 6 in there. Okay, then here's our next problem. Inside the parentheses, 6 squared, 6 times 6. That's 36. Now we can get rid of the parentheses. And we've got this business. Okay, we can do this as well. That's 180. Calculator can help you with that, or you can do it by hand. And now we got one thing in brackets, so we don't really need that anymore. Now, this was waiting over here, and we could have taken care of this little problem right here, 4 times 5, because that is 20. And we have to do that first because the fraction bar is a symbol of inclusion. So now here's my next little problem, and then that equals 10, and we can finish it off. Oops, don't put an equal sign. 190, and we're all done. Okay, work from the inside out. Look at those symbols of inclusion. should do well. Now the other problems are where they give you a problem on one side and a problem on the other side. And what you have to do is you have to solve this problem, and you have to solve this problem, and you have to put a picture in there. The picture is either going to be this side's expression is has a value that's the same as this one. You're going to put the alligator this way and say this side is bigger, and this side's expression has a smaller value, or you're going to go this way, and you're going to have big and small. Those are your choices. You're just comparing your two answers, left side answer, right side answer, by following this. We turn this into like, remember how you find little problems side of big problems? Now once you've solved the big problem, you're comparing it to another problem, making this an even bigger problem. So that's the last bit there, comparing your answers between what's on the left side and what's on the right side. And these are your three choices. Equals, this side's bigger, that side's bigger. Okay, come and ask me questions about this if you get stuck on something like the practice problems or one of the things in the lesson. Yeah, if you can't find where to put some of the push on your calculator to find some of those buttons, I can help you with that too. Please ask questions and have a nice day.